Hello, my name is Dan Lubbe, and this is a short video about SOLIDWORKS Composer interactive documents. Now, as kind of a preface to this, I was working on this project just kind of on my own time. I wanted to have something to show individuals exactly what an interactive document was, because most times, as I've noticed, people don't really understand what I'm saying when I talk about SOLIDWORKS Composer and how you can create these interactive documents. So for all of you SOLIDWORKS Composer users out there that understand these terms, that's great. And for those of you that do not, that's kind of why I put this document together. Now, in order for us to be able to display and give this to you, we would normally have to either send you a disk or at least present you with an upload location to be able to download this document, this interactive document. Now, we understand the logistics of this can be kind of difficult. So what I'm going to do today is discuss interactive documents by going through the document I've created. And at the end, if you choose to, or if you're more interested in actually seeing the document live yourself, and being able to mess around with it on your own machine, please feel free to email me at the address you see on the screen right now, dlubbe@goengineer.com. So to kind of start, here I have a SOLIDWORKS Composer interface, and this is the beginning of my interactive document. I've used SOLIDWORKS Composer to compile not only a full list of views, but also some animation of how to assemble one of the robot's arms. So what I'm going to do and how I generally start creating interactive documents is going through and creating kind of screen by screen. And when I say that, I'm actually referring to views. So when I click on a view in my left-hand pane, it actually brings up my view. Within each of these views, we have text. I have my geometry on the screen. We also have buttons, right? So if I click on this button, you'll notice what I have to use is what we call an event. And on this event, there is a link. So you'll notice that this link here brings up a specific view. How does it work? So actually what happens is when a user clicks on the view in the interactive document, it will bring up the next view, which is called how does it work? So I'll click on this view. And you'll notice what I'm doing in this document is I'm really going through and trying to expose what the interactive document is and what SOLIDWORKS Composer is, right? So this is an interactive document that was created in Composer, but really it's highlighting what SOLIDWORKS Composer is and what it can be used for. So kind of the three main things that Composer can be used for are, number one, creating images for documentation. So if you think about your typical Word document template for work instructions or assembly instructions, we can produce images such as these views, and we can put them into a Word document, right? The second thing would be creating animation, which would then turn into video. And video we can post on our website. We can put it on a disk and supply it to our customers via CD along with our product, etc. And then the very last one is the interactive document. So keep in mind, this whole thing that I've created is an interactive document. Everything was created in Composer, but really it's just highlighting what Composer is in general as a tool. So generally what happens is I go through and I would create all the different views that I want my users to see, and I've created quite a few. And to take that a step further, I've also created an animation. So if I kind of play the animation from within here, you'll notice what it is. It's actually just the video instruction on how to take apart this arm or put it together, etc. Granted, this thing is very simple in nature. It's a very kind of simplified geometry of this robot arm, but it's really just more or less trying to highlight how this thing is put together. So without looking through this whole thing right now, the interactive document I create just takes everything here and kind of merges it into a document that the user can they're able to manipulate the geometry themselves. They can move things around, rotate the models, etc. And I'll kind of demonstrate that when we get there. So that brings me to kind of my second point. How are these interactive documents published? So I'd say the two most common would be either to have the end user install the Composer player, which is a free viewing tool for anything that's been authored in the actual SOLIDWORKS Composer tool, That way they can open up SMG files that are sent to them at any time, and they can view the contents from within. The second way would be to create an executable document from within Composer. If I come up to File and I come down to Publish, if I come to Save As, I have something here called Package. And what the package is, it's the executable. It also contains the full SOLIDWORKS Composer player, all within the one executable. So your end user does not need to download anything. It will just open when they fire up this executable. Now, something to keep in mind, executables aren't necessarily the easiest document to send to another user. Emails tend to kind of strip out executables, just, they're doing their job and protecting you from harmful malware, etc. So sometimes with the executable, you may need to write this to a DVD or CD, or have it in like some sort of uploaded location where your users can download as necessary. I'd say the very last option here is under Publish. We have Publish to HTML. This Composer document will open and run great in Internet Explorer. So if you have like somewhere on your website that you would like people to be able to click a link and they can go to your interactive document, they'll be able to open this up in Internet Explorer and view this document directly within that interface. So without further ado, I'll probably actually close the Composer interface. And we'll move over into the first thing. So this is our HTML document, and this is the interface. So it kind of takes a little bit of the interface from the Composer player, but this is the interface in the Internet Explorer environment. You'll notice at the top we have a nice toolbar to be able to rotate, etc. So your users actually directly on this screen can sit and rotate a model around, and they can click on things, right? So if they hold their cursor over something, they'll be able to see what it is. So with that being said, a lot of this interactive document that I've put together relates to clicking on parts, having users click on a part and have that part linked to another view where everything is exploded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and we're actually going to use the interactive player, the Composer player. This is the SOLIDWORKS Composer interface. It's the same thing we were looking at in the HTML document, but we have a few additional options for menu items. So without further ado, I'm going to click through this interactive guide. Again, at the end of this, if you choose and you would like to, show this to someone, maybe within your company, or, if you've noticed, I've used a robot from a very popular cartoon company. And if you'd like to show this to your children, maybe they would find some fun in clicking around and watching GoE explode into different smaller parts. So moving forward, I've put some instructions on the screen to click on any one of GoE's parts to begin. I'll hold my cursor over and I'll click. This brings me to my first view, right? What is SOLIDWORKS Composer? So SOLIDWORKS Composer is a tool. It helps us communicate with one another using visuals rather than verbiage. So when it really comes down to it, it's helping us take our existing CAD data and kind of manipulating that to be able to show someone instructions versus having to write everything down in text. So moving forward, I will click on the next button. How does SOLIDWORKS Composer work? So what happens is we start by taking our CAD assembly files, which could be in any 3D format. What I mean by that is it does not need to be a SOLIDWORKS document, but we do need to have 3D data. So as long as we have 3D data, I'm able to bring this into the Composer environment by dragging and dropping or going File, Open, and then choosing that assembly file. It brings this into the Composer environment and is immediately converted into what we call an SMG document. So at this point, we're about ready to begin creating manuals, animation videos, and interactive documents just like this one. So first thing we'll consider, right, is creating an image for an assembly document. So if you think of all the CAD data on the screen, I want to use this to create an image of maybe the wheel train on the right-hand side exploded out. So what's the very first thing I want to do? First thing we want to do is talk about different ways we can display our CAD models on the screen. So here we're able to add ambient occlusion, which is putting kind of shadowy edges in creases and crevices within our CAD geometry. We have the ability to use shaded with edges. This is something similar to what we've seen in SOLIDWORKS assembly files. You're able to put shaded with edges, and it really just kind of outlines in a black line all your CAD geometry. We have something called shaded illustration. This allows you to kind of have somewhat of a light coming from the right-hand side here, and lights can always be manipulated as to where they're being shown, but it's just a different type of viewing of your documentation. So this is really the first step in creating a view, is just, really deciding how we want our model to look. So here we have a flat technical. This removes all lighting and keeps everything very flat in color, which I actually find very nice in appearance. The second one we have here, the last one, is the classic black and white. And notice in my interactive document, at any time, I can actually rotate my model around. So it is really interactive. And then as soon as I'm ready, I'm just clicking on that next button again. And it's moving my geometry and everything back to the original view in the Composer tool. So we also can add some additional effects like shadowing, as well as mirroring on the ground, things that are pretty typical in actual SOLIDWORKS. This is just for fun. We can go ahead and throw on some background images as well as the ground image, kind of showing our Martian robot on a different planet. So first thing in the document, it talks about zooming in and out. So in this interactive document, I can actually zoom in and out at any time. I can rotate my model around. I can highlight components, etc. I can do just about anything I want within the interactive document without making any editing changes to the document itself. It's all viewing. Once I move forward, I have the ability now to explode documents. So you'll notice in this interactive tool, I've created two buttons, one for explode, one for collapse. And in this interactive tool, I can allow users to explode out geometry and at the same time still be rotating this around. So you notice I'm rotating this around. If I need to, I can zoom in on a specific component to get a better look. This may be a good opportunity here for me to let everyone know you can actually publish these interactive documents into Microsoft Office products. So if you think about Microsoft PowerPoint and you're going to be presenting a new project, this might be something you could be, would be interesting to put into your presentation. So at any time I can collapse this. And again, these are two buttons. They can be pushed at any time, which allows my users, more flexibility on what there is, what it is they're looking at. So moving forward, we're going to create a view from scratch. Very first thing when we're creating a view is we want to move our geometry on the screen and apply like kind of a nice camera angle for the view we're going to create. So I'd say this is a good camera angle. The next thing in the document I thought we could do is maybe explode out these drivetrain parts. So within the Composer tool itself, you would be creating, transformations with all these components, but in the interactive document, I made it easy so that you can just click on any one of these components and it drives out and explodes out that drivetrain. So we can take a look at this, right? Once these are in place, our view is good. I can say, let's apply some graphics. And now a benefit here is that SOLIDWORKS Composer actually pulls in metadata from your SOLIDWORKS assembly file. So if each of these documents has a description in its custom properties, we can actually pull that metadata information into Composer so that I don't have to individually type in all of these different descriptions. I can actually just pull the metadata directly from the SOLIDWORKS file. And the benefit here is that later on, when we go to update this Composer document, in case there were design changes, if any of these description fields changed in the metadata of the custom properties of these parts, it actually changes on the labels that are linked to those metadata properties. So it's very cool stuff. Here, we can go ahead and hit next. And now we have something else in our interactive documents. It's called Pulse, right? This allows me to kind of highlight some components on the screen to really grab the user's attention, right? Now the user kind of knows, oh, hey, there's something blinking at me on the screen. I probably need to click it, right? So here on this screen, just to keep it super interactive, I've allowed the user to go ahead and click on these things as necessary to more or less feel like they're adding in these explode lines themselves. So once we have this in here, I can go ahead and hit next. And now I've basically created this first view in a matter of minutes, right? So doing this exact view in the Composer document took me no time at all, right? And just putting it into this interactive tool is even easier. But The next thing I kind of want to point out is in the interactive documents, we can actually have buttons that not link to a portion of an animation or even another view, but to an external document. So I took this view in the Composer authoring tool, and I actually created a JPEG image. So what I did here is I linked this button to an external JPEG image. And when I click that, you'll notice it's opening it up in Windows Photo Viewer. And this is my final view that I would be using in my documentation. So instead here, I've used it in my interactive guide just to kind of show you, how quickly and easily it is to create a view and then to publish it in, some specific image format to be used in your documentation. So moving forward, we have our document here. I've kind of broken these out into two different sections, work instruction manuals as well as animated instructions, all keeping in mind that this is all done within one Composer interactive document. So hopefully I'm not going over your head, but we have a work instructions link. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. And now when creating, we may want to start with a cover image for our that could have been our cover image there, the last view. Moving forward, you'll notice I've created kind of an isometric view of the leg assembly, all the part numbers, etc., and how these things are put together using explode lines and arrows. So I'm glad this arrow is on this view because Composer allows us to add graphics to all of our views up front. So I'm not only using my CAD data, but I'm allowed to put in labels and graphics and things like that. Whereas I think in the past, it's pretty common to maybe take a screenshot from my CAD tool, but then I have to bring that into Adobe to be able to add graphics on the screen. So I'll move forward and I'll kind of just click through the different views that I've created just so you can get kind of a sense of what you're able to do in the Composer tool. So these are all views created in Composer. This one that we're looking at right now, it looks like 3 separate views, but I actually created them all in one view. So if I were to publish this out of the Composer tool as an image file, such as a JPEG, it would look exactly like this. And towards the end, you'll notice a lot of these views, I actually put them into a document just so you can see how all of these views kind of work together. So I've created these different views, right? I come into the next one. I have something with a bill of material. And just to kind of point out a benefit of the interactive document, I'm able to come here to each of these individual items. And when I hold my cursor over them, it actually highlights them as well as their balloon on the screen, making it much easier to understand what it is I'm looking at. So it's a very nice tool to be able to have that, for your end users. And so as we move into this last view, or I believe it's the second to last view, I hope you just get a good idea of the capabilities of this software, right? A lot of these things we couldn't do in SOLIDWORKS, these little detailed views out to the left-hand side of, something in an extended position as well as its initial position. So I would say this is kind of my last view, my completed document. Notice that we went through and we did look at this step by step in an interactive document, which is something you'd be able to do. But if it's not something you can do, maybe the company's not quite ready to go paperless and have something like this. We do have the ability, I have this button linked to an external manual, and it could look something more like this. So I'll kind of zoom out on this a little bit. And I'll just kind of scroll through this. So these are all the views I created within Composer that we were just looking at in the interactive document. I really put this button in here that linked to this PDF just so we could kind of take a look at what this looks like externally. So this would be like a typical PDF that we could print out, staple it, or whatever we need to do and pass it along with our product to our customer, right? So this is kind of all of those things put together. But I'm going to go ahead and continue, and this should be bringing us back to kind of what I call my table of contents page. And let's go ahead and take a look at the animation instructions. So you've maybe seen somewhat of animation happening between the views when I'm creating, when I click on the next button, etc. But the actual video animation is much smoother. It's not a single frame connected to another single frame, or static frame, I should say. Animation is actual video. So you notice here within my interactive document, I've put together an animation. I kind of showed it to you earlier in the authoring tool, but this is actually giving you a better look as to how this thing is put together. So this assembly of this arm is put together Something like this, when everything is moving in a very linear direction along kind of specific axes, very easy to put together. When you start to combine some complex motion, SOLIDWORKS Composer makes it very easy to do complex motion. So this is it. This was my interactive document. I had a button that initiated my animation, and now when I'm finished, I can go ahead and I notice my back button is blinking at me, allows my user to know when they need to go back, right? So again, I would have loved to have sent this executable out to everyone to email, but I assume 100% of them would have been turned around and sent back to me. So what I want to say is, if you're ever interested in learning more about the interactive documents or even just SOLIDWORKS Composer in general, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email address is shown on the screen here, dlubbe@goengineer.com. At the same time, if you maybe think about this in the future and you don't have my email address, feel free to reach out to support@goengineer.com. That's our tech support line, and they'll put you in touch with the correct person. So this has been a short presentation on an interactive document. My name is Dan Lubbe, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.